Mr. Deo.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Big Conversations by Ordinary People podcast.
After a long time.
Yes, after a very long time. Very long time.
I'm here finally.
Yeah, and today you're here on a totally different conversation. You're the publisher of this book, The Making of a Strong Independent Man, Keeping Your Frame as a Man in an Insane World.
True, it's an insane world right now.
Yes, so the book is very strongly worded. That is the thing. So before actually we even get into the book, congratulations on the effort. This is not, no one takes this for granted, my friend, that you put your thoughts down and follow through the whole entire effort of what? Publishing to print. Yeah. Usually for most people it's easier to have a few thoughts, go on Facebook and put out a small rant and call it a day. But yeah, this is quite an effort following through. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, Chief.
Maybe if you can just, I know many people who listen to this podcast are interested in publishing. I wonder if you want to narrate for them a little bit of the story there, like the process. You've written your first manuscript, for example. How do you go about looking for someone to help you print it? How do you go about publishing it? How do you go about editing it and things like that?
It's a long story. Actually, I sometimes call it the mobile phone book. I wrote this book on a phone.
I see.
I wake up in the night and type on my phone, and that was after a long time of watching videos, reading quite a number of books. Then at night I would just wake up and say, okay, because I'd written down what I wanted
the book to be about.
Because I realized after some time there is information as guys that we never got, and the girls were much more prepared. Actually, I had to reflect during my primary days. There were those days, I remember it was like every Tuesday the girls would be told, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah, I read that part.
It's time to go, and us guys would stay behind doing our funny things. There are those things, they were called syndicate. We would do our syndicate, and the girls are there. They're being pumped information. They're being prepared for the world. And the guy is nothing. So later on things started happening, and I'm like, okay, so why wasn't I ready? And the girls tell you they have this information. You don't have this information. So I started reading. So when I got into a few problems, I started, okay, now I think I need to go back to the board and see what I have to do. So as I read through, searched for different information, gave credit to a few guys. There are guys like Rollo Tomasi. I call him the father I never had. There's a guy called Silas Nyachwani. I read his book. It really changed me a lot. There are guys like Coach Greg, guys like Richard Cooper. So I got information. I said, okay, now if I have this information, how many other guys don't have this kind of information? And I realized as I was trying to interact with a few guys, border guys, my workmates, my own brother, and some guy, and you're like, guys don't have this kind of information. How do I push out this information?
I see.
I told my brother, I think I need to write.
To write the book, yeah.
I've always harbored. I wanted to be a journalist by then.
Oh wow. Okay. Now I see. Yeah. Okay. Now the picture is starting to come together.
I always wanted to be a journalist, but along the way things shifted I moved to another direction. So I said, okay, now this is the time for me to have this kind of information and push out, because there is no information for guys. I forgot to talk about James Onen. James Onen actually is the one who exposed me, opened up a lot of
James Onen, this is Fat Boy.
The Fat Boy. Fat Boy. Okay. I give credit to him because actually he's one of the guys who really opened me to this kind of information. Then, of course, by following him, and you know how the internet is, you follow one person, you start getting recommendations from different guys who have published different podcasts and things like that. So coming back to my book, so I would wake up at night and write, then go back to bed. Then later on, maybe when I'm traveling back home, I add a few information, check here. So after some time to check, I had a lot of information.
Yeah.
I had to split my book into life and then women, because at the end of the day, we're on earth to to also enjoy the women. So
I see.
how do you prepare after you have made yourself into the man you want to be? That's when you're ready to.
Yeah,
to
I
get
see.
a woman.
I see.
So
I see.
that's why it has two phases.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
life part
Mhm.
and the women part.
I see. So yeah, okay. Quick
Yeah.
question: how many women
Mm.
have read this book and given you feedback?
Actually, I will tell you, it's the women most who have bought this book.
I see. Okay.
One woman even told me, I need to gauge myself and see how am I doing according to your rating.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, my my partner read the book and she didn't finish the book, so yeah, maybe don't take her feedback seriously.
Yeah.
But she.
But feedback is feedback.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
good,
So
whether
no, the
it's
question
bad,
she
it's
asked
feedback.
me. Okay, she told me that from what she has read, the way she felt is that the author seems to imply that life is a competition between men and women. You sort of make it seem like there is some sort of competitiveness between so for example, your story in Boise, when you compare the education, this is I think in the intro even, right? When you compare how you are not given information versus how women are given information, you make it less. This is what she was saying, so these are not my words. I'll tell you my opinions after let's during the conversation, but I just wanted to give you that sense of what I think sort of some women would feel, right? So the story is about you're writing your book and you're saying, this is sort of how to make a strong man. But you kind of want to say, because when I was a kid, women had this, right? So it feels the competitiveness there. I don't know if I'm making this very clear. And that is what she felt like. Like, does he believe that he's in the world to compete with women, or does he believe that men are in the world to compete with women? That's sort of the sense. And I want to hear what your thoughts on that are. Yeah.
I always tell your brother that we live in a matrix, and how is the matrix playing out? First of all, the genders have been taught not to trust each other.
By they, you mean?
By the guys playing out, who are planning all this, where it's heading to.
Okay,
And,
so before we go further, let us first. This is why Eddie, your brother.
Yeah.
This is sometimes where we go in conversations, right? Okay, I want us to first describe they, because that's also a very big important part of your book. So by they here, you mean the institutions, right? Say the media, say the politicians and whatnot, who have their own interests, and they feel like the best way to achieve those interests is to contrast in a way also, in one way also, right? Okay, then that's clear. So you're saying, so those the people controlling the matrix, they're playing the genders against each other.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Initially, the genders we are supposed to be complementary to each other, supposed to help out. Their roles a man has to play, and then their roles a woman has to play. But then all this is being turned the other way around, where it's now more of competitive. And I always tell my friends, love is war, life is war. If you go into...
You have to choose the weapon.
Yes, you have to choose your weapon. And this is one of the weapons. Ladies have a lot of weapons. They have a lot of things that... They get into all these things knowing what to do, actually. And the guys don't know what to do, because you're not being prepared for all that. You were in school. How many times did you ever get a conversation with maybe the male teachers? None at all. Right through even university, those conversations were not there.
Although one would argue that the reason there was a big emphasis on preparing the girl child is, okay, two reasons actually. One is there is a word in statistics. Okay, no, let's not use that. Okay, so the potential of think about nuclear war, right? The chances that it will happen maybe are very low, right?
Yes.
But if that chance is say 1%, it's so low that it's not something you worry about. But if it happens, the destruction it causes is so fatal, right? That you have to plan for something that has a very low risk of what? Of happening, right? Okay. So if you think of women versus men the same way, say in school, right? if you make a mistake, you as you do,
Yes.
yeah, let's talk about reproductive mistakes, right? Say if you have sex with a girl and you end up becoming a parent, or let's say maybe you don't, neither of you gets AIDS, right? So because that's also risky, and both of you end up becoming parents. The potential for destruction for the girl, because she has to carry this baby for 9 months and go through the struggle of giving birth and all that, are high. That even if the risk is the same, even if chances are that you'll have sex when you're not ready, is the same as for her. The kind of impact of that action, it is worse for her than for you. That is, I think, where these conversations were faced, because most of the studies before, and this is, I think, a big part of Museveni's regime, most of the studies before were trying to explain why there is a big discrepancy between opportunities for men versus for women, right? And a lot of those focused on the fact that most women, especially women who don't live in urban places, are giving birth too soon. And when they give birth, if they're in school, they have to drop out. If they're like early entrants in jobs, they have to take a break. And some jobs can't afford to give you like 3 months away to say take care of your child and things like that, right? And so the burden for the girl is higher. The impact of those decisions higher, and that's why a lot of these NGOs, which is a big part of your book as well, a lot of these NGOs thought this is an important place for us to focus. Let us invest in educating the girl child about how you can grow up, in a world of men, how you can grow up to protect yourself. So first of all, you can finish education, and second of all, you can do your job if you get it right, rather than men, because again, the impact for that is not that much. But okay, yeah. Tell me why you disagree with me, because it sounds like you disagree.
Yeah, where I disagree with the girls, there's something I'll call sexual freedom. As just like you've talked that a girl can, the girls are being taught that you can be sexually free, as they tell them that as you pursue being independent, it means you can also be you can have the sexual freedom.
Yeah,
that's where you see all these things coming from. I don't know if you've read about the post-sexual revolution time. Read from the 1960s.
I read Eddie's stresses,
yes,
so I'm up to date. Yeah.
So I blame all this to that. It's quite a long story. As we get there, before, what would happen is that I don't say that girls shouldn't be in school. They shouldn't have all those opportunities done for them. But at the end of the day, they are being done in a certain way, whereby it's. I always say that it's starting to now bring down the boys.
Okay.
And I have women I talk to, mothers. They tell you, Deo, I have boys. I have one I know who has 4 boys, and she's scared what is going to happen to her boys. She tells me that the opportunities she sees the other girls have, his boys don't have.
Okay.
Right from school.
Yeah.
We have banks that are having opportunities, that are running loan facilities basically suited for the women. I don't know if you've seen the current one, Stanbic.
Yes.
So now that is the woman you're going to.
I see. Okay, so one thing. Again. First of all, I think I agree with you on this, right? So one thing is, if you look at the data, right? If we left the world to play out without human intervention, without this kind of intervention where we help the girl, where we sort of, I think the American word is affirmative action. Yeah? If there's that kind of affirmative action for the females, men end up taking almost all the opportunities, right? So that is one of the realities of the world we live in, right? But I think where I agree with you is, if you feminism, for example, right, has become a constituency for politicians where it's the powerful women, it's Winnie Byanyima who comes to say, oh, don't kneel, right, to an ordinary woman because she's like girl power, but she's more powerful than the majority of men in the country. And it's not that what the statement she's making is actually, obviously she's doing good work around pulling up the girl woman. I'm just using this one example, but it's a very similar thing everywhere else, where it's the powerful women who are using feminism to compete with the men, to sort of outcompete men, which is true, without actually lifting what the women who are not in those positions of power, right? But still, you have to look at the reality. Is that the world? Okay, so the world before, as you said, right, where it's simpler, right? The civilizations are not so complex, so the women, like for example, in my culture, I'm Uganda. Yes. The women do more work than men. Like in the typical Chiganda house, right? Yeah, the woman wakes up, they go to the field and they dig. They go to, actually, when I went to the village, I even never understood what my grandfather did, to be honest. Yeah, my grandma would go, do the digging, do the washing, feed us. And then my grandpa would just sit in the biggest chair in the house and be served food. Cheers. Yeah, like
I lead the home.
Yeah, I lead the home. Like I never understood what he did, right? So in that like point of view, like, but when the world changes, right? When the woman starts to feel like maybe my place is not just the home, right? Maybe I also want to be the chairman of the village, right? Maybe I also want to be the MP of my municipality. You know, maybe I want to be the president of my country. When things like that change, then the question comes, okay, so there is a vacuum you're living, right? Who is actually going to feed the baby, right? Who is going to do the feminine work? You know, use the word feminine a lot, right? In the book. Who's going to do the feminine work? The traditional feminine work. And the men are not willing to. Maybe you'd call it stepping down. Yes. But the men, for me, in my opinion, the men are not willing to step up to actually do the family stuff, right? And so that brings out the fact that women are tied in this situation. You know, they've been holding a position for so long historically. Yes. They want to explore new opportunities, but unfortunately, what they leave behind is a vacuum that the alternative, you know, the men are not willing to step up to do. And so in order for the women to actually get to places where they want to get, they have to mobilize. What feminism is doing, you know, they have to pursue raw power, you know, sort of like, you know, the feminism thing. I have big issues with feminism, but I see its value. You know, there is...
It has a few advantages, but the disadvantages are many as well. You look at... when you we say come back to the gender roles. Yeah. There are certain responsibilities men have to do, and they are expected to do that. I think if you're on Twitter, you will say, I want a man who does this, who can provide for me, and you have a woman who is working as well, but they still expect you to provide. I work in an industry where I see all this play out. You see a woman who is loaded, but she still, as a man, you're expected to
provide for her, give her money for her hair, things like that,
and do those things. And that's what makes a woman feel, I'm a woman, I'm being taken care of. So as a man is striving to do all this, so someone is being asked as well to step into the other roles. I have a friend who made me laugh one time. He came back home late. He's a personal trainer, so he had worked like he had left home like at 5. So he goes home, I think he went home like at 9. So he gets home, he's tired, from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the night. He gets home like at 9:30. So the woman is telling me, now you help me here, help me here. He told me, for the first time he told her, do you know what I've went through the whole day? He said, I'm willing to do what you want me to do, but if a thief breaks into this house,
you're going to be the one to wake up.
Yes, you're going to be the one to wake up.
Yeah, I see.
I won't protect you as well. So and the lady just laughed and said, okay, now I know where you're getting to. So, and I like that because he has read my book. I have he's lucky he has conversation with me every day. He told me that once he started knowing some of the things that he's expected to do, because yes, we can't take away the responsibility from ourselves as men, but also always that you have to be responsible to where you have authority. Otherwise, you're going to be a slave. A slave has responsibility, but with no authority. When you make the money, you don't ask where it has gone. So I told him, yes, you have your money is submissive. You're lucky, very lucky. So you have to take the responsibility. You have to.
I see.
So as we get back to what we are talking about, is when you mentioned about feminism, it's good to have empowered women, but where feminism is now heading to, it's now heading to dominating men. dominating males. I've talked to a few women, especially those who have read my book, and they tell me, you know what, Dale, we want to, one of them I won't mention, she told me that, Dale, you know, we want to have more women on the board. I said, okay, now if you want to have more women on the board, what percentage are you looking at? And she's like, at least we should have more women. I said, what do you mean by women? Maybe 70% or 30%. I said, now you're becoming the people you want to remove.
Yeah.
Why
okay,
is
so I get that. Quick question. Do you agree that majority of history men have dominated women?
I agree. But it's the women who benefited at the time the men were dominated.
Okay. But you agree that men have dominated women, right?
Yes.
So why is it hard for you to comprehend a world where women dominate?
I have no problem with women dominating. You know, feminism came in a funny way.
Okay.
It came in when it was about equality.
Yeah.
Now that equality has been achieved.
Yeah.
I always mention about the 1.5 women get at the university. Actually, I call it an insult to women.
Okay, that's arguable also, but
yeah.
Okay.
After 30 years, is it still necessary? You have more women graduates than men, not so?
Okay, so, but again...
no, do you agree on that?
No, I totally agree. I agree.
Yes.
But
so I think we have gotten to a level ground where it's leveled. So we need... we are at a leveled ground, but then the push is now becoming so much. Worldwide, you see what is happening right now.
So, quick question, right? Okay. One is, you first of all have to understand some of these policies, the actual goal. You know, most of these things also, they're abused by politicians, right? And the example I was giving you maybe was the wrong one. Yeah, I think Winnie Byanyima is one of the good feminists. But if you look at, say, the American politicians, right? They abuse a lot of this feminism thing, or the race card, or the, you know, the minority card. They usually abuse it to accumulate power on their own to compete against, you know, the other version. So if it's a race card, you'd see, say, a black woman using already powerful black woman using the race card to gain an advantage over a white man who they're on the same level with, right? Yeah, but also giving a disadvantage to actual black people who would need that kind of affirmative action, right? It's the same thing with the women thing. There are people who abuse it, yeah? But if you're looking at the policy itself, if you analyze the policy, say for example, giving the girl child an advantage in education, right? The reason this was is because as far as 2 generations back, my grandfather's generation, women were not expected to go to school. It was more expensive to marry an educated woman, right?
Even right now it is.
Yeah, even right now, yeah. Women were like, for father, an educated daughter may stay longer in the Luja, right? And so it was in his own, for him, it was better that what? The woman stays at home, right? And this is kind of a history that is way more than 30 years, where society gives men much more opportunities than what? Than women, because, you know, God maybe said the woman is out of what? The man's rib or something, right? If you say, okay, all that history of, if you're a biblical guy, all that history, say let's start from Jesus' time. If that history of 2,000 years, if you want to compare it to the 30 years of Sevo, of giving women what? An MP position, and giving women free education, like 3 points in education, then it's not a very fair comparison, right? And if you're saying that because men have dominated historically, it's okay maybe for us to imagine a future where women are dominating, right? Then you're not being honest to yourself if you think that this small affirmative action is what? Is a problem in itself. My opinion is, I agree with you that what? This is probably not good for the woman, right? But like sort of a handout, the 3 points, the handout, I think is not good for the woman, right? But the policy itself, the intention wasn't feminism, wasn't this toxic kind of feminism we have today. It was actually supposed to help the ordinary girl who's struggling to do education, because she's the first woman in the family to do education. When she goes to class and she's as good as the boy, the girl gets the government sponsorship because she has that extra point. Yeah, but only for those people, for those ones who have already excelled right? When we go and we both get 6 points, okay, well, I don't know what the number of points is for someone who has failed. The girl has that extra point to be like, okay, since you're a girl, go forward. That made sense when my parents were in school, because they were the first women of their kind. They were the first women in their family to go in school. Yeah. Today, that policy is still there because the balance hasn't yet been achieved. Look at Parliament, for example. Parliament has positions for each constituency, for each district, I think, that is dedicated for what? For a woman MP. Yeah. The previous speaker, in fact, was a woman MP. Her position wasn't contested by men. But still, if you look at the numbers in Parliament, the majority is men. Yeah. So, yeah. If they took that away, imagine how worse it will be.
Just like you mentioned, feminism is being abused, and greatly. Yeah. There's where it's doing good. When you talked about Kadaga did a very good work when she was in Parliament. I think that's an isolated example, a good example of how when women are empowered, can be able, they can support society in a good way. But then when I was writing this book, there are things, all the things that are being told to women now that men used to be told. That as a man, you need to do this, you need to strive for this, you need to be assertive. You will see that that's what women have become, and they have become worse than men. Yes.
How many stories have you heard of a woman beating a man in the house?
Many.
Compared to the alternative stories.
I've had. I told him one time, men, you should have. You should get an opportunity and go to the family court. Have a day. I have a pastor friend of mine. He does counseling for couples. So we're talking, and I told him, you know what? If you want to get the real things, because people will come and talk to you about a few issues, get a day, take it off from church duties, go and sit in the family court. You're going to get first-hand information on some certain issues, and you will now know what to say. When he took time off, went, he came out a very different person.
Are you saying that according to family court statistics, more women are abusing domestically, they're abusing men in homes?
I won't say men, but there are more men who are quiet, who are being men who are going. This morning we were with your brother, we were on Twitter, and there's a conversation by Andrew Chamagero, who was talking about gender-based violence. And I told them it's there, even on men, even against men.
Of course. Yeah. But those are very, very small cases.
Not very small. You know, when men go through it, it's very ashamed. Now imagine if you went to police and said, you know what, my woman beat me. You know, even the men.
I get that. I get that. But okay, so there are two reasons why why I think this is not actually a big point, right? First of all, the cost of switching for men is not as high, right?
The cost
okay, so in an employment environment, right? Usually, before you change your job, you consider. Like, so this job I've been here for 5 years, I'm already on a career progress, blah, 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 blah. If I move from this job to a new job, will I get the position, at least a better position than the position I'm currently on, things like that, right? Before you move. So you calculate what is the actual cost of me moving from one job to another, right? That's the same thing with families, right? When you live with your woman and you abuse your woman, right? But your woman, you're, say, the breadwinner at home, right? You have like 5 children with each other, right? The woman has come from a home where divorce is looked at in a very bad way, right? Things like that. When that kind of woman is abused by you, she has no way of running. It's very hard for a woman to run and leave the children. Okay, I mean, those, of course, those things happen, right? But it's harder for the woman to run and abandon her children and just don't know where to go, go and sleep on the street, for example. Than it is for men, right? So a man who's abused in the home, usually if a man feels like they are a victim in home, they can just wake up and say, you know what, let me go and bring sugar, and he never comes back, right? That is possible. It is very, very easy for a man compared to a woman. That is why most of the gender-based violence is focused on protecting women because the alternatives for women to live the opportunities for women to live realistically, the opportunities for women to live these kind of relationships is extremely hard. It is not, it's hard for you to find a mother of 4 on the street sleeping in a sack, right? Because of violence. While it is for a man to do that, because a man can start with nothing, right? It's just the way the world is structured. That for the man in an open society, the opportunities are vast. It's his imagination actually that's his own limit, right? His biology is not a limit. But a woman will have to worry. What if I go and, that time of the month comes? What if I get raped on the street? Things like that. There are very many things that society is just built around
protection.
Around the power of men, that it is hard for a woman to live outside of the home structure. So that's why most women choose to suffer through what? It's not even a question of strength. Most women, in a scenario where your wife is way stronger than you, if she starts beating you because she came home drunk, you just leave. You can abandon your children. As a man, usually that option is actually there, right? You can just move on. For a woman, it's a harder decision, first of all, to abandon the children, just biology, but also the society out there is harsher. It's more scary than what? A husband who's going to slap you 1 or 2 times. And that is where those NGOs come in. They come in to be like, okay, if you need to leave, if you absolutely have to leave, we are opening doors for you. You don't have to go on the street to risk even more. Come into the NGO. Rather than men, they'll tell you if you absolutely need to leave, figure it out.
Why all this is playing to this side is there are more incentives for women in families to basically even disrespect the heads of families. The incentives from divorce, because they know if you leave the home, they have the protection of their courts and everything. So actually it's easier for them now. Right now, if you look at the conversations that happen of late, you realize that gender-based violation it's playing out in a way that a woman knows, if you hit me, if this happens to me, I know where to run to. If I do this, they will listen to me mostly, and the man will basically have nowhere to run to, because there are certain things you won't go and tell people that this is happening to me in the home. I didn't eat, I didn't do this. All of us at a certain point, yes, we are providers, but there's a time where you get stuck.
Yeah.
And say you have a woman who is working. You would expect that the fact that she's stepping out of the home to go and work every day, there are certain times she can step in. There's a guy who made us laugh, a taxi driver, during lockdown. He has a woman who has a shop in Chikubu. Okay, some small thing. So during lockdown, the taxi guys couldn't move. So this guy, how taxi guys, they have money today, then he will go and put. So he had taken the advantage during lockdown to go to the village and do some plantation. He said, I think now that I have some time, let me go and do the coffee and all those things. Let me start off something. Because most people thought that it's maybe 1 month thing or 2 months things. So in a way, he was not able to have enough money. So he goes back home. So one day, he didn't leave money. But of course, he stepped out of the home. He said, let me go and see what I can do. He didn't come back with money. You know what they told him? They were totally made. There's no food. He thought it was a joke. He said, yeah. Okay. He slept. Then the next day, he said, it seems now these things are serious. Say, no, but you say I'm not able to fend for myself. That's why there are a lot of things during the lockdown. So he said, now, you know what? So you know how luck comes, he gets something to do. He said, now, I think for this week, for the days I've not been eating, let me go and get somewhere and have something to eat. So the woman realizes after 3 days, the man is not eating at home. Where are you eating from? So that guy was telling us, after those 2 days, I would have become violent. Men have choices. Actually, I always say, men who are violent, you have a choice to either beat a woman, be violent, or and men were rational beings. You will think about something before even. By the time a man says, you know what, I think I have to. They have thought through it. It's not all about feelings. It's about, I think this is the final thing. But he told me from that time he learned, you know, I could have beaten, I could have been violent, but I got the best solution. And actually now he told me, now I know better the person I live with. I now know that when I get to this point, this is what I need to do. So I'm not saying gender violence.
I see your point. No, I see your point. Okay.
But so, then now, like I said in the book here, actually it doesn't talk about a lot about it, but it still comes to decision making. I don't support men who beat women, who are violent to women. There are other ways to solve things.
Okay. So well, I read your book initially, and I thought, and I was asking if you read Peterson's book, 12 Rules of Life.
I haven't.
So, but I think there is room for advising men or people in general to embrace who they are, right? And this is sort of the sense that I got from the book. Until like I got that perspective of the book seems like what the author is trying to draw some sense of artificial competition between men and women. I agree with most of the stuff in the book, right? And if you had changed this to Making of a Strong Independent Person, this would have been a good book. This would have been a very, very good book, because most of the advice, and although you think it's advice for men, it cuts across. You know, there are societies, rather there are families and there are people where the woman has to take up the masculine role, where the man is a drunk and an idiot, and the woman comes, collects the bread, bathes the man, things like that. And if she reads this book, and this book is targeted for her, how to be a strong independent person, she would actually gain a lot of value for her own life, right? And that is like where I wanted us to actually take a significant amount of this conversation. I wanted to first air out I have issues with feminism, but I also don't think that it is misplaced. I think it's just mismanaged, but it is
mismanaged. Like
I think it has actual value. I grew up in a family where I wake up and they distribute the housework amongst all of us, apart from cooking. I don't know why my parents never allowed me to cook, but everything else.
There's a reason they didn't allow you to cook.
No, but everything else. My mom, I remember, used to tell me in my house, there are no jobs for women or men. You do everything.
But it's good. It's good for boys to as well know. Yeah. Because before you marry, you need to take care of yourself. You need to know how to wash. You need to know how to cook for yourself. There are times that the woman won't be in the house. Maybe she has gone for a conference or something. Who will take care of the children? And we can't depend on the care assistants all the time.
I see.
Need to, where the need is, you step up.
I see. So let's talk about I don't want obviously to read the book for people, so people can go and buy. But there are some things you put in the book that I think there is actual value for woman or man to like, for example, your chapter about the characteristics of chapter 2, I think, right? The characteristics of an alpha man, right? If you had changed this to characteristics of an alpha person.
There's no alpha person. It's an alpha man. You wouldn't want to face an alpha woman.
I think a woman who exhibits these characteristics is a good person. Like a woman who, so here I use words like aggressive, and I don't think you mean confrontational, right? Exactly. So
if you're pushing for something, you need to
pursue it.
You need to pursue it in an aggressive way. If it's a deal, you need to push it and follow through and see that it goes up to the end.
So what I'm saying, this is a very so one of the things is when you say feminizing. And I think what Eddie's biggest problem with society is, it is true that some of these characteristics are being demonized, right? Like being, pursuing the things you want single-mindedly, right? A lot of people would say, this man is so ambitious, like as if that's a bad thing, right? So that the society that does that, right? But this is not, again, my argument here is, and I'm going to stop saying this, but it's not just about the men, right? This could also be useful to have a woman who knows what they want. They be like, you know what? I want to be the CEO, for example, right? And the reason why most women end up crying, they end up going into that feminism, some of that toxic feminism stuff, is because they want to get the ambition without actually putting the effort, right? And there is some sort of narrative that's telling them, oh, you can actually be an being aggressive. And I think this was actually part of your book. Being aggressive is a characteristic of a man, which is, if they told them as a person, you know, most of these characteristics, not even just aggressive, like if you do a good balance between aggressive, confidence, and rationality, you know, if you have like those 3 characteristics as a person, you're just going to have a content life. You don't get in a situation where you feel like you're competing with other people, where, you know, there are things that are petty that come because you feel helpless. There are some petty things that happen, you know, like, for example, when women do petty things in the house, because they can't communicate, you know, they're trying to get the man to speak up or to express themselves, and it's hard, and then they start being petty. Most of that stuff is a side effect of helplessness. So you get in a place where you're like, I don't know how else to get what I want apart from this kind of pettiness, right? But while these, like, you know, have a purpose, right? Yeah. And at one time in your life, no, this is sort of where I want to go, right? Like, yeah. Actually, I'm even narrating your book for you. Most of this was interesting. I enjoyed this. Yeah. Yeah, until someone told me, the book feels like the person is competing with men. I'm like, okay, because I'm a man. I didn't thought about that way, right? Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about like the characteristics. Yeah, I have a purpose, for example. Without like obviously giving out the entire book away, we'll just hint on a few. How do you see this, and how does this, for example, in your life, how has this like helped you strategize more, be a better person, and stuff like that?
First of all, recently I was watching a movie called Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride, the current
one. Father of the Bride. Actually, it showed me what is going to happen in the future of a man, and how there's this character of the guy who has basically become a woman, and even right at the end of the movie, the father is like, where did I make a mistake? Because this guy, all the things that a man has to be in the house, even the father to the guy at one time asked the boy, but how are you going to help my daughter? Say, no, me, I'm here to follow your daughter. So it's very interesting. If you can get them and watch it, you will see how well. So coming back to my book, so the girl in that movie, and I always say that movies show you where the world is going to push to. Everything the guy is supposed to be, the girl is. And I don't believe there is any woman who will even stand to be in a family where the woman is like the other guy. The guy has no purpose because the woman was going to Mexico to work, and the guy is basically going to follow him. And the dad asked him, so what are you going to do in Mexico? No, I'm just following my woman. Things that were supposed to happen a long time. Women want to feel... There's something a lady told me one time. She told me, a woman wants to be in a life where decisions are made. Yes, whether we'll talk about women they can contribute in the home, they can make it, but they would feel more comfortable when their decisions being made. When a man is making decisions, you know what, this is where the home is heading, this is what we're going to do next week, this is what I'm looking at, they feel more comfortable. So when I talk about the part one, the purpose, where are we going? And the man is pushing that aggressively. This is where I want to be. This is where myself I want to be. This is where I want my family to be. This is where I want my children to be. And this is where everyone around me needs to be. When you look at most of the leaders, when they're pushing for whatever they are pushing, they have their personal agenda. Yeah. But then for people to buy into your personal agenda, they have to see how are they.
Yeah. What is the value?
Yes. What is the value society, of following your agenda? And your family man, your man, when they see that this is where you're heading and you've shown them the direction that they're going to, she will push you to that direction. Trust me, she will push you. She will do everything to make sure that you get to that. You'll have your clothes. I see a smart guy. Your clothes are ready. I need my...
True. I agree with that.
If it's your brother, he sees that, okay, this is the vision, my brother. I think we can buy into this. I've seen family businesses that have been started by one person, but then the whole family buys into it and everyone benefits.
So I agree, right? Although the question is, what happens when the woman also has a direction she wants to take, right? And I'm asking this by the genuinely, right? So, for example, in my situation, right, I have a direction I want to take. Say I get a job in Google, and my woman also gets another job somewhere else, right? And we have to find the compromise, right? In that situation, from your perspective, whose vision is supposed to be pursued?
A man's vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
And I come from here. Whites, why I like most of them how they are. When a man gets a job abroad, if you have met most of them, they come with their women. And part of I've talked to most of them. Part of their negotiations is, I'm coming with my family.
Yeah. No, I mean, the woman, the same thing. It's not a man thing. I've worked with so many whites, and when the woman gets a job, the woman also says, I'm coming with my family. If they agree, if the woman's job is higher potential for the family overall, then they say, I'm coming with my man, and the man comes and the children. That's just how it works.
But the few cases I've seen of a man following the woman, they have all ended up disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I'll tell you this, that I've worked.
I'm showing where it's heading to.
Yeah.
Because you'll have, men were purposeful beings. So if they have to follow, unless a man has seen that in that place I'll have an opportunity. If they have seen that I'll have an opportunity in that place, they'll follow. But if it's just going to follow because the woman is getting an opportunity and the man just has to follow, trust me, it won't work out. After some time, when a woman sees that, okay, now I leave this guy in the home, he has to just maybe go and play golf, go to the gym. There's a certain disrespect that starts happening, and it's automatic. All these women you see who are empowered, who are doing well in society, they still want to have a man who they can report to, and those men are few. Like you have a woman who is earning over 30 M. Trust me, a woman will always want a man who is earning higher, and that percentage is.
So I'll also tell you the truth, right? Yeah. A woman will have a man who earns higher, but if given a choice, a woman would prefer to earn higher herself, right? So there is always that. It's a thing is, I think even for me, if I was to choose, if it was like going to the supermarket to choose women, right? And I was to choose Bill Gates' daughter over, okay, obviously I would choose my wife over Bill Gates' daughter anytime. But if I would choose to give the attributes, if, of Bill Gates' money to my wife, over not doing that, I would obviously choose to do that. Right? I would obviously choose to do that. That is a very economic decision that has nothing to do with men or women. A woman would prefer a man who is rich because it gives a sense of stability, right? Think about family and all that and whatnot. It gives a sense of stability, and I think also there's some biology about how women are built to expect a more stable provider because of the offsprings, right? That is true. But given a choice of choosing one who has means and one who doesn't have means, unless you watch too many American soaps,
Disney movies,
you will choose a person who has money. Like if the choice is up to you, right? You'll choose a person who has money, right? That is, it has nothing. Okay, in my opinion, that has nothing to do with women. But what I was asking was, in a realistic family, right? Both of you are fairly okay, right? Both of you have like long careers, because nowadays it's not like it's not hard to imagine, right? You're a manager at MTN, your wife is the manager at Serena, maybe you met in a manager's conference thing, right? That is how you got married. Your careers are both gone like the same pace because you're both intellectually healthy, things like that, right? And at some point, your wife is asked to move to Serena, the best branch of Serena, the headquarters of Serena. You also asked to move to South Africa, the headquarters of what? Of MTN, right? And then you have to think through, like, because your wife tells you there is no Serena in South Africa. If I come there, I have to work at another hotel and I'll have to start at a lower level. I don't want to do that. You tell your wife, there is no MTN in where you're going in Ghana. When I come there, I have to work at Airtel and they'll give me a lower position. And so the compromise is like, where do we go, right? Where do we go? And most people in that situation, they choose to what? Those things end careers for most people. They're like, let me think, let me live. Sometimes, in some situations, women give up on their jobs and be like, you know what? Let me take on the family, if the value is there. Or positions, both of them say, let's leave the job, let's just start home and do our jobs and just keep our balance the way we've had it, right? That happens. The question of, let me follow the man because the man is the man. Yeah. In 2022, I don't think that's a very viable answer. I don't think that's a very viable answer. And this has nothing to do with feminism. This has the fact to do with before. As I've told you, my grandparents, right? When you came into our house, it was very hard to see what my granddad did. It was very hard to see because...
But the house was organized.
Yeah, because again, most of that is the stories, right? My grandma, for example, I imagine if she had divorced, okay, it was a happy family. So I don't know, like, I don't want to put hypothetical situations, but most of it is my grandmother was primed to believe that she needs a man to be successful in life, right? And most of this, for example, also like some of some of the part of the book is even successful women somehow feel like they need a man, blah, 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 blah. Most of this could be even just sexual urges, right? A woman could feel like, I can be alone and single and build my own empire. But those moments where she's sexually active,
tonight.
Yeah. No. Like the period of her life where she's sexually active, she feels like society is more condemning of her sleeping around, like a man would have. Like if I'm single-minded, if I'm Elon Musk, I'm single-minded and I want to just build my empire. I have all these big dreams of whatever that guy thinks about, right? And that is what I want to think about in my life, right? I can sleep around. Elon Musk has like 1 million children from so many wives, right? I can sleep around and people will, and I can justify that what he's saying over the world population is what I'm trying to save the population. You can come up with stories. As a man, you have that opportunity. Society allows you to do that, right? A woman, if you have 10 children by 10 men, it doesn't matter whether you actually have like proof you've talked to God and God gave you a paper that if you don't get 10 children, the world is damned. People, the society is going to condemn you. They're going to label you slut and all that, right? So all those things are there. And usually the compromise women have to make is, let me get a man. And people start to think, oh, women need men. But, the same way, we need women as well. That's the same level. It's not like either one of us needs the other more. It's just...
The genders are complementary.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, the thing I like about your book is general life advice, right? If I take this book to Chihuahua, well, I have to first get the people to read. But if the people in Chihuahua, in a hypothetical world where people in Chihuahua are reading books, and I take this book to them, all this advice is good for them. It doesn't matter if the agenda doesn't matter. Like for this advice, be a leader. These are the things that you just need to survive in life, right? Be a leader. Let me see what chapter 3 was about. Yeah, like assets you should have. We can talk about whether God is an irrelevant asset. But, so, okay, there are a few things here also that I don't agree with, like, say, why people demonize debt, right? I don't agree with that, and we can talk about that if you want. But, yeah, skill or education, having, like, financial leeway, at least 6 months saving, things like that. You don't have to be a man to like, enjoy your life better with those things. That is like general good advice for people. That is like what I thought about this book. Yeah, you're writing for general good advice. You just have a competitive nature towards women. Yeah, and that's sort of what bleeds out of the book. That's what I thought.
Because it's competitive. Why I focus more on the man?
Yeah,
is the more I talk to men, there are small things that you think men know, but they haven't been exposed to.
I see.
That kind of information. And you see online, there are a lot of conferences for women, even women-only spaces. And these are some of the things.
But there are some conferences for men. There's the men's conference.
The men's conference. Let's not talk about Fanero. I have issues with Fanero. So those conferences are there. But then my book is not that it touches this. It's for the general man. I focus on the man because an empowered man benefits society.
Yeah, you see why that sentence doesn't feel like it's complete. When you say an empowered man benefits society,
yes,
it feels like yeah, the sentence is not complete. It's because then it brings up the question: what of an empowered woman?
I'm focusing on men.
Okay.
I'm focused.
Okay.
The women have their own spaces where they can talk about.
Okay.
I've also written about. I've also read about women and
yeah,
women.
I see.
Yeah. So most of the things I'm talking about here, I'm looking at the man, because the more a man is prepared and is ready, it's the society from women, family who benefit, and it's good to bring in another person in your life when your life is organized, because I don't think there's a woman who would like to get.
I agree. Yeah,
with a
yeah.
man who has
I think
dates, who is not
that's a better
prepared,
point. Yeah.
who doesn't know what he's supposed to do, doesn't have a purpose.
Yeah.
So that's what I looked at mostly here. You talked about there's something you mentioned about a woman being promoted. Life is about choices. I know women who have refused top jobs because they said, my family. They even refuse promotions. Yeah. You're being pushed to go to another push, but they know what happens when you leave your family, and they just tell their bosses, I can't go because of there's a lady I know in Bank of Uganda who was being pushed to Mbara, and she said, no, I can't go to Mbara. My family is here. Life is about choices. You make the choices, either your career or your family. And I believe there are also choices that you would have made if it was not because of family. Yeah. You would have gone with them. Because sometimes you make these choices when no one is seeing, but you're looking at the long-term thing, what will happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so yeah, I think that makes sense. Let's talk about debt. Yeah. And tell me why you think it is a bad thing to have debt.
There is good debt.
Yeah, but in your book, debt. you don't get into the nuance of debt.
I don't like I've mentioned, there is good debt. If you're going back to school, I talked about in the book. If you're going back to school, you're going to buy a loan. You're basically you're getting a loan, maybe for business, something that is still going to bring back. But then there are those luxury loans, like I need a car, I'm going to do Kwanjula, I'm going to do those kinds of loans. I don't think, in my opinion, you shouldn't get a loan for that. By the time I have to get a loan, maybe to do Kwanjula, then I have an issue.
Yeah, you can't afford
my woman,
Kwanjula, basically.
One of my cousins is getting married. So we were discussing and we're saying, do you really think your man can bring all these things? Because myself, I told her, I don't want your man to go into to get with you, but then when you're in debt, because most marriages, that's where the problems start from. Like you have a debt of over 10M, you have someone to take care of, you have your own personal needs, and in the African setting, when we get together, man and woman, you're also expected to help out on the other. She's expected to help out on your side. You're expected. So imagine you have a loan 10M, that man is not bringing any profits. He's not bringing any income. So those kinds of things.
I see. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, I don't agree. I think we're on the same page when it comes to debt.
I tell men, if you're going to get a loan, let it be a beneficial loan.
Yeah, I see. Okay, and when you talk about pattern recognition skills here, what do you mean?
Pattern recognition. I have a brother who's an auditor. That's where I pick most of those things. He tells me that I learned that in audit, you can know the sequence of how things happen by just looking at maybe three things, maybe happening every after a certain period. It can be every maybe 2 or 3 days. You can, okay, now this is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. And in life, there are certain things, that in this period, when this person does this, next it's going to be this, next it's going to be this. So we need to have that kind of skill to know that economists have most of these things. They look at an economy, like I was watching a podcast of a guy called Patrick Bet-David, and he was talking about the recession. And he was saying, we are overdue. Actually, it was supposed to happen. Now it's happening, but it was supposed to happen a few months ago. So knowing the patterns, it's good to know patterns. It helps in planning, even for a family, even for kids. This kid, when they start behaving like this, maybe they're hiding this.
I see. Okay, nice. So also a big part of your book Yeah. Well, not a big part, to be honest. These are things that stood out for me. You talk about New World Order. You talk about things that sound like alien conspiracy theories. Yeah. First, explain to me, what is the New World Order?
The New World Order, I was telling someone, what we are going through right now, where we have the US, where we have Ukraine and all these things, Russia, China, all these wars, everyone wants control of the world. Actually, we're in the New World Order. Who wants to lead? Everyone is now bringing out their different weapons, their different ideas. What do I do to control this world? You will look at China now.
Yeah.
Someone was saying that they've bought most of the farmland in the US. When you control the food, you control the people. When you control,
I think Bill Gates owns most of the farmland.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe it can be even through the Chinese, because they're saying Chinese are buying. And then when you look at Russia, they have the oil, they have the gas, they have the wheat, and you've seen how they have they have managed. So, and this thing plays out in a certain way that it affects the rest of the world. We are getting the repercussions as well here.
Yeah.
You listen, if you followed a little bit of the speech of the president, he's saying we are suffering.
Which president? Museveni?
Museveni.
Okay.
I look out for his highlights.
Okay.
I was looking at the highlights yesterday.
Okay.
And we are saying that we are suffering because of what is happening in the other parts of the world. And that's the New World Order. And there are different things that they are pushing. It's not just... It's not just...
So, sorry, how does this... Because your point of New World Order was about feminizing men.
Yeah.
How does Russia... holding oil, feminize men? That is like what I'm trying to understand. How does China buying farmland in the US feminize men?
A weak man is easy to control.
And you think being feminizing men is making them weak?
It's making us weak. It's making
Explain that a little bit better.
And there are characteristics of masculinity and there are characteristics of femininity. As men get feminized,
first, run to me just a few rough characteristics of both of them, just so we can have a clear comparison.
I've written.
No, we can read.
Some of the first ones that I wrote I wrote in the book here.
The characteristics of an alpha male.
Yes, like purpose. You know, we have.
You're saying that's not a feminine characteristic at all.
The what?
Having purpose.
Having purpose, it depends.
Okay, now I want you to tell me things that are not on the border, that strictly feminine and strictly masculine, a characteristic.
Do you realize there are more... Someone was sharing something and was saying that there are more entrepreneur, female-led businesses. The result of, they called it what? Femtrepreneurship or something like that. Most of the highest percentage now are being started by women.
So this statistic actually goes back to the exact point I was making about my grandfather and grandmother.
Yes.
It's not the big businesses, yeah? It is in Uganda here. People who are running their own businesses, people who are independent, the majority of them are women.
Yes.
And the plain fact is, women have bigger incentive to actually spend their time working than drinking than men. Right? And that is just a fact. The thing I was telling you, my grandmother woke up, she went to they forced us as grandchildren to go and dig with her. But my grandfather never did. My grandfather woke up, actually I don't know what he did. He went to church to be important. Yeah, he went to church to be important. He came back home, they gave him lunch, then he went back, sat with his friends again to talk about important issues. Then he came back, they served him dinner, and then he went and slept. Yeah, that is what he did. Yeah, my grandmother brought the food from the garden, went and planted the food, studied the seasons to know when it is time to plant. She bathed us, all those things, right?
Was your grandpa retired?
I think so. I don't know. Okay, he was a teacher. We had those stories. I was too young then to understand anything, but he had stories that he was a teacher.
He had his dime. He has.
Okay. But anyway, my point is, right? Even today, if we walk around Chiwatule Road here, right, looking at small businesses, not all, but how many women are in the market selling stuff, how many women are in the shop selling stuff, how many women are in mobile money kiosk selling stuff, all those businesses that don't require this hierarchical structure of growing, the things that MTN would do. all of them are run by women. Okay, the majority of them, a big percentage, more than 70% probably. I haven't like done the numbers, but a big majority of them, women are willing to work, to do small work, because like work that obviously they can handle. Most of the hard labor, laying bricks, carrying stuff in Chikubo, most of that is just not physically viable for them to do, right? That's why they don't do it. But all the small work that is physically viable for women to do, majority of people doing that work is women, right? On the other hand, if you go to a kafunda of drunkards, of drunkards, even if most of those drunkards go to that kafunda to find women, the majority of people there, 90% are men, right? 90% of people who are just laying there blaming the government for their problems are men, right? The contrast is, for me, in my opinion, it's not that what? I've seen like majority of women who are capable of scoring, say, a good man. There are those women who are gifted, God crafts them in a way that they can score a good man. The majority of those women will not work. Yeah, they don't put in the effort to work. But women who are average like us, if you consider yourself an average person, a woman who's average like you, who knows that she has to hustle through life, she can get married, but she's not probably going to get Bill Gates' son. She has to hustle through life. More of those women are willing to work than men who are willing to work. They are willing even to sit in those mobile money kiosks. So, for me, in my opinion, right, this is not a conspiracy theory by China, by Russia, to put women in positions of power. It is women are just generally, they have bigger incentive to work because usually women are the direct connection to their family, the most direct connection to their family, while men have the privilege of providing. Usually when men actually are able to provide more, they even extend their family. So if a man has money, if Elon Musk has money, and he can provide well for one family, he's going to find another woman, provide for that family as well, provide for those families as well, right? That is how men are usually built. Okay, psychologically, they're built to dominate a hierarchy, right? While women are more built to provide for immediate needs. Okay, I'm not a psychologist or like a scientist, so I don't know what I'm saying, but this is how I see the world, right? When I read, and I've read this, and again, we've had conversations with Eddie about this a lot, about the feminizing, right? When I read people conspire, when I read people looking, say, at say Fortune 100, 500 companies in the US or in the world, and saying, women are growing at a higher rate, there's a conspiracy to make men unemployed. I'm like, you look at Chigowa, right? Look at Chigowa, go shop by shop, mobile money by mobile money. Apart from Rolex, I don't know why women haven't ventured into Rolex. Mobile money by mobile money. And compare how many actual, because those jobs don't need hierarchy. If you're willing to work, someone will put you in the shop. And compare how many women actually going to those shops versus how many men. That's usually the women.
Okay, just coming back to the purpose. The things that used to incentivize men to provide, they're being covered right now.
That's true.
You get? Yeah. We have what we call the better backside. The better backside is what society, a man would wake up to go and say, okay, now I'm going to go out and work so that I can provide this for my girlfriend, provide this for my wife. But then, now we have women who are able to
provide for themselves.
To provide for me. So it takes as a man who is very, 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 very purposeful to say, okay, now I still need to go to life. I still need to go to work and do this.
I think I totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
So that's why now we have most guys who say, no, just leave work.
Go to the
kafunda. After that, go and play my game or watch whatever and just go back home.
I see.
You get? So now, that's why when I talk about purpose, this is where I come from. The incentives are no longer there. So, if the incentives are not there, what do you do as a man? Do you just give up and say, you know what? The girlfriend I want, she can provide this for herself. So what else do I do? It's not the end. You still have to push through life.
No, I see. I agree. I think, I don't know though whether if you look at the numbers. So I think you're very right that maybe incentives are not clear anymore. That's why say most men.
And that's what
especially the
makes women angry right now. It's the guys look like like you get this guy. He's like, okay, why do I even need to go to work? It makes women angry so much when you listen to conversations from women. They're like, she has her own things. So what else do I do? What do I need this guy for?
Exactly. Yeah.
I sometimes also pity the women. Sometimes the boyfriend they have, you're like, okay, now this one, bang. You see, it's a struggle for her.
I see. Yeah. No,
So
I
that's,
agree.
so that's why I mention this a lot and say, purpose, yes, she might be able to do this, but you still need to have something you can push through. I need to see big conversations, go to this journey. Yes, however much my woman is able, but I also have this in my goals.
I see.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the idea of God. Yeah, because it's one of the, I don't know what chapter that is, but I think in chapter 3, where you say assets every man should have, you bring up God, right? So I'm going to lay for you some of the, I'm going to aggregate for you the structure of the world in comparison to how much people believe in God, to how successful they are, and you see, right? God is most prevalent in Middle East, by Islam faith. That is perhaps the most religious place in the world, right? And also, if you consider Israel to be in the Middle East, right? God is there a lot. God is least prevalent in the Scandinavia, right? And China. Yeah, that is where like you'd find the least version of God. Yeah. But if you compare these two places, if you compare the Middle East, besides the countries that don't have to work for their wealth, they just dig in the ground and they get money. Besides those countries, the other countries that have God, a good percentage of Africa believes in God, a good percentage of Latin America believes in God. Those are the worst places in the world to be. Those are and the places in the Middle East that don't have oil, abundances of oil. Those are the worst places in the world to be, right? So when you say God is a big asset, are you putting the actual realistic picture in perspective?
On my side, it's God. Other people have their own.
But
beliefs.
you're writing a book. You're advising me. That is why I'm holding account to this. Yes.
On my side, first of all, before I even put in on the book, on my side, God. People write books according to what they do, what they know has worked for them.
I see.
And I would recommend. Why I always tell people that you can't ignore the spirituality. I read
so spirituality and God, don't confuse those two.
God is spiritual. He's a spiritual
but
being.
one example of being spiritual.
Yes,
there are very
God
many
is a
other ways of being
being.
spiritual.
Yes.
Okay.
God
Okay.
is a spiritual being.
Okay. Go on.
Yes, he's a spiritual being.
Okay.
I read you're into IT. Most of the gurus in IT, there's something spiritual about them. I read about what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg. The time he was stuck, he had 5 million downloads on his Facebook, on his app, and he was stuck and was like, why am I not making money from this? He talks to Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs tells him, I'm going to recommend to you someone in India. You're going to go there. If you go to Wikipedia, there is a period.
I think I know the story you're talking about, but that is, again, that is not good. I agree with that version of what?
God, why I brought in God, spirituality. People have their own spirituality. What to myself is God. You find another person who says, I have my God of something. So and that's where most of us go wrong. I've seen, what do they call? Most of the people who have come into Uganda, most of the investors who have come into Uganda, they don't ignore the spiritual part. They don't. And I realize they're successful. Whatever they believe in, it's, when you have one of the person was telling me that one of their bosses was in one of their conversations, their boss told them, let's do everything we can for this business, but also make sure that you communicate with your higher power. He didn't tell them what the higher power is, but he told them, and this is a top company, one of the successful companies in Uganda. Their boss telling them the spiritual power.
So it's
this is where I come and say,
I see.
You can say to ignore and you say, I'll do my basic. But
okay. And the reason I brought this up is, again, the part of like discussing a book, first of all, is to show your perspective, right?
Yes.
If you write a thought down, my opinion is, if you want this to sort of, the point of writing a book is usually to influence the thinking of society, right? Yeah. So if you put a thought down, the best way for me, I can try to, if I don't understand it or if I don't agree with it, the easiest way is for me to come and say, hey, you know what? This doesn't make sense. And so you can justify it, maybe in a perspective that you couldn't write, right? And this is where I'm bringing the good thing. So again, statistically, there is spirituality in China, right? It is just the spirituality that excludes God, right? So
they have their own God.
No, not their own God.
No,
I'm saying
I'm saying they have their own God. You know why they say gods? I take mine to be.
So they don't have
They
gods.
also have their own
The tradition,
Yeah.
the India, this Buddhist tradition, right? The Indian tradition, the one you're saying Steve Jobs might have recommended to Zuckerberg, is the tradition of you going to understand your mind, cutting out the whole idea of what? God. Yeah, this is what the Chinese over Zen, over Taoism, over what encourages is, instead of believing, right? Sit down and find out, right? This is the whole point of this is the Buddha's teaching, right? Don't what? Don't trust what I'm saying. You don't have to trust me. Go and find out for yourself. And what the Buddha is saying is, you investigate. It's meditation practice. Sit down and investigate. Blah blah blah. Yeah, but the comparison I'm giving is when you look at Uganda, right? The place, the most people who go to God. When I was coming back from Mozambique a while back, right, and in South Africa, I boarded a plane with a lady from South Africa. She was coming to Uganda as well. We sat next to each other, and so we're talking, and she told me she's coming to go to what? To Kakande's church. I couldn't hold back my what, because for me, from the society I'm in, Kakande is a person to be ridiculed, right? I couldn't hold back, like how I wanted to laugh at her, right? And I had to control myself so strongly because it sounded so ridiculous that you'd fly from what? Yeah, and then she started explaining to me, this is the third time I'm coming. Kakanda has done so many things for me, blah, blah, blah. She was obviously an elderly woman. So I wasn't going to get into this kind of conversation with her because I also didn't know her. Like, you don't want to attack people's beliefs randomly. But, like, the more we talked, like, the more I got the impression that she actually took this so serious. This was a very important part of her life because she was telling me he has done so many things for me, and I was like what? And she couldn't, like, give specific examples, right? Which, like, I understand. Sometimes your life changes in a way that's not specific. It's not like you want to walk and pick a briefcase of dollars. It changes in a way that it makes sense to attribute to something, right? Maybe higher power or something. And for her, maybe it was after coming to Kakande's church. And yeah, this is not, I'm not saying you should go to Kakande's church. Please, if you can, come and pray, give me your money for church instead, I'll pray for you. But that's what I'm saying. It's not a what? I'm not advocating for religion per se, especially that kind of religion. But I'm saying I understand from a perspective, right? Why that was important, yeah? But if you look at the actual numbers, right? If you look at the state of the world, the people who go to Kakande's church, in terms of aggregates, are the poorest people. Yeah, there are few anecdotes, the few really rich people who go to Kakande's church, right? I think the first family is also in the church business, right? In the evangelical church business. Those are the outstanding, the 1% of evangelicals who are rich. The actual poor people, and we used to have a helper and a babysitter at home. Like, she wakes up, she does her work and everything, she does well. When the baby is sleeping, Bujingo has a TV. Is it Bujingo? There's a TV. Yeah, there's a TV. Boom. And the guy rebukes and he asks for money and he does what? Then when I think the TV is off or whatever, she goes on her phone. She has a katochi. Another pastor preaching. Like, her whole day is rebuking demons. I don't know where she found those demons. Like, doing that. For me, it seemed like this is the most ridiculous way of living your life. All this time, if you had spent it watching that movie you're mentioning, for example, if you had spent it watching actual movies, you learn a lot more about the world. The world comes more in perspective than whatever you're doing, whatever you think that is praying, whatever that is. I thought that's what I thought, right? But also, if you look at the actual numbers, the majority, say in the US alone, right? The places that have the most God are the poorest places. In Africa, there's a joke. It's an American joke about priests, right? That priests will come and buy those old factories. Yeah, say in one of those racist American places where there's so much church, right? The priest will come and buy a de facto American factory instead of making it reoperational. He will come and spend all this money buying the warehouse so he can put a church so people can pray for jobs. Yeah, so instead of actually making the factory a thing that makes jobs, he'd rather that people come in, poor people come in, and they pray for jobs, right? And this is like a business. So when you put all the good advice in this book about how people should be independent, and then you bring in that perspective of God, for me, you sort of, I want to understand like better. Like after all the bad things that are being done in the name of God, how do you advise people?
In life, every concept can be manipulated.
I agree.
And there are individuals that can.
I agree. That was my exact argument on feminism. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are people who have manipulated religion, who have manipulated other aspects in life to their advantage. The Catholic Church itself. You know why the Germans and they don't like God at all? It's because of how the Catholic Church manipulated people. And actually, I tell some people that I don't blame those people not wanting to be associated with anything. It's because the first people who were using it manipulated people in very, very, very. When you read about it, you even get angry. I even pity people who go and evangelize in those countries, because when you read about the history, about what happened, you really say, okay, now I think this is why these people don't want. So it's like someone who has been following a certain religion or a certain belief, and then they discover what I've been following, it was manipulated in a certain way that if I knew, I wouldn't even have followed.
Okay.
There are stories I've heard about some people go to church and the things they have gone through, you're like, and you still sat in that church? But I don't blame anymore. I don't blame them myself. No, I don't. Because by the time someone once said that when a human being wants freedom, they will do everything to get freedom. That's why you'll find a rich man being told, bring this part of a child, and they'll go and get it. They are looking for freedom.
Not wealth. I thought they were looking for wealth.
Of course, freedom comes with wealth and those.
I see. Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah, actually, that's a very good thing. I didn't thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
A human being for freedom. That's why you see we have revolutions. It's not like people just want to go and die. No, people are like, we are tired. Sri Lanka recently. You think people just woke up and said, okay, now let's just go. They just said, whatever happens, happens.
I see.
So, that's my point. That's where I say sometimes these beliefs, it's up to you. I'll not force you to follow my God. No. But there are points where there are guys I know who are real atheists. But when you listen to their conversation, how they change, you get there is that point in life where you turn. There is a point where you say, you know what, let me turn. I think I need to sit with my brother and we start the big conversation. There is always that point in life.
I see.
I don't force people to say, believe in my God, believe in this.
I see your perspective there. Yeah.
And we're in a world where there's a lot of information. We're lucky we're in a generation of information. So, anytime information can get to you.
I see.
Yeah.
So, you have a problem with tattoos, you have a problem with piercings, you're like my father. So, I want to understand this. And the reason I'm asking this, I know people, for example, who have tattoos, who have dreadlocks, and who have like their whole faces are pierced. And they're the most intelligent computer programmers I've ever seen.
Someone said we are going to have the first generation of grandmothers with
exactly,
exactly. Earpiece.
And while you're here advising us that should be a filter. Like I shouldn't even consider the woman if she has those things. And I want you to explain to me these things.
One time I was with a friend and we were somewhere. But this is away from tattoos. There's this lady who had 3 colors in the hair. So I said, this woman should be, like I mentioned about pattern. Not, these things are not like everyone should have, but a big percentage. There's a reason why people start taking up certain they do certain things to themselves. And why I focus on women is that as you become a high value man, you have to be very careful who you bring into your life. You've had stories of men who are really high profile men being brought down by women because of the choices.
Also I've had stories of men being brought down by men.
Yes. Yeah. It's either, but no, like I mentioned, I'm focusing on the
I see. Yeah.
I'm focusing on the man who has built himself.
Yeah,
not true.
Free,
he has his cars, he has everything. So we're seated somewhere. So this woman had 3 colors in the hair. So I tell one of my this woman must be a very difficult. She said, you have started your things. It didn't take 5 seconds. The words this woman said, she just said, Kati go again, there are certain things in life when you start when you look at patterns, you can know. You've heard about conversations where people talk about single mothers and all those things. People have stories. There's this guy called Mr. Henry. I remember I usually go through people's pages and see what. And there are guys who are telling him, you guy, this woman will do this. But the next time I see the post, guys, leave single mothers alone. And guys on the page were really, but we told you. So some of these things are not like, yes, you shouldn't do, but.
So you're saying we should just judge people stereotypically?
I won't say to judge.
I mean, if that is judging. We can use like a fancier word to make it sound nice, but that is what Jesus says we shouldn't do.
Women, this is something that I learned. Women have standards. Women know how to choose. Women are very, very serious when they're choosing. There's something they call the sisterhood. They are very serious that...
So first tell us the sisterhood.
Yes.
We can... tell us
that before she even considers you to be the boyfriend, the other part also has... The friends have...
I see.
Yes,
okay,
they are very strict when they're going to choose a man. First of all, they will know, can this guy provide? Even if you're in school, you remember when we were in school, just secondary, you guys just wake up every day to go to class, but the girl still expects you to buy at least something for her. Why? And if you're not able to do that, she said, no, this is a broke guy. But you all go to school you all go to class every day. They are very strict when they are choosing a pattern. When they are choosing a partner. And all these things, some of these things I mentioned, they have their own as well. And if you look at the list of women, it's more than this.
I see. So I should just go and buy a women's book instead of forcing you to write a gender-neutral book. I should.
No.
Okay,
just
I see. Yeah, I see.
So, when I mention tattoos, they also have their own.
No. So I understand that. What I want to understand is, given that that this is the first generation who are going to have grandmothers who are pierced, what is your actual reservation?
My actual reservation is, women are very emotional beings, and they don't do things all of a sudden. I've met girls with tattoos, and I asked them, why did you have that tattoo? Why did you have that piercing? Why you had it? And she has a story behind it.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the story behind it, it's not a very good story.
I see. Actually, I forget where this one is. I remember some of these things have just been like getting to the book, but there's one thing I read that I forget. But now you've reminded me about staying away from women who have problems from the past. But human, everyone has problems from the past.
Someone said there's a book I was reading, and when a woman is looking at you, she's making a bet about your future. And would you get with a woman who over 100 men were with her, would you? If her body count is scary, would you?
It depends. It depends. Really, for me, it's not a straight no. For me, it's not a straight no. It's not a very straight. It's right now. I'm not obviously in the market anymore.
Yes.
But this is not.
But if you had a friend,
yeah, I wouldn't discourage them. If like again, there are things that this is how this is how I see the world. By the way, right? Meeting the right person. Is not a very easy thing. It's not like, okay, we can obviously, it's easier to write a book and tell people, don't go with a woman with a tattoo.
I'm just giving you guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, let me just make this small point, right? It's easier to put that in a book, right? Say, no, this is not a good idea, right? But a better book would be, this is how to find a woman you like, right? Like, this is the step by step by step by step. But the reason that book is not there, it's because it's not a very straightforward thing. Like, being alone and being with a woman with a tattoo, I would choose to be with a woman with a tattoo, right? Okay, me, I don't have like any reservations around being with that with a woman with a tattoo. But I'm saying like some of the reservations I would have, for example, around women. I'm not going to say things here because I'll write my book. People should buy my book. But the reservations I would have about what kind of partner I want. I'm always willing to break those if the alternative is I'm going to be 50 and in my big mansion lying in the swimming pool looking at the sky and drinking beer by myself, right? That for me, it's very, very clear that I'm willing to compromise on my standards, right? And this I had a conversation, I think when I was younger. Did I have a conversation? I watched a movie like you. No, I think I had a conversation. I remember I was in Amsterdam, and I was talking about how I also like have very high standards about people. Blah 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 blah. And I remember this lady I was talking to asked me that that perfect person that you're looking, you're looking, the expectations you have, yeah. When you imagine her, do you imagine her as a person who would actually like you? And for me, that put me in very straightforward perspective, you know. It's easy to expect perfection of others. But when it comes to yourself, you the person, are you a perfect person, right? And that is a thing, because when you say here, for example, the baggage thing, you know, you've had 100, you've slept with you have a body count and things like that. Like, okay, maybe that's an extreme. But either way, like whenever you imagine that perfect woman who has everything sorted, who's perfect, are you sure that woman is not with Bill Gates? Okay, even Bill Gates, they divorced him, so maybe it'd be like a good example. You know, like there is projecting perfection on someone else makes the and this is, I think, what Jesus was saying, by the way. I enjoy Jesus' stories. I don't believe that the God story, but Jesus was saying, if you don't judge, then God won't judge you, right? Or if you judge, God will judge you. One of a version of that, right? That is what the Bible says. And this, for me, the way I interpret this is, when you project, these things happen. Like when you say you're in a relationship with someone, and you have this checklist of very arbitrary things that you know, make you conclude on who the person is, right? So you're with a partner, and you didn't know, because you know, when you found her in church, you didn't know that she had what? A tattoo. So one day you're showering together and you see the tattoo and you're like, shit, I like this woman very much. I've been with her we've been dating for like these many times. We've only seen ourselves naked in the dark, but now the first time I've seen after 2 months in the light, I've seen it tattooed, it's on my checklist. Then you start now drawing down, like you forget the reality, the stuff you know actually about her that you've experienced, and you start referring to your checklist. You're like, this is actually a bad thing. And then once, you know, like things like that, right? But most of this stuff, it is like going to be about you. What's the right way to put this? Like, it's usually you the person. In my opinion, and I'm not a psychologist again, most of what I'm saying here is not science, so people don't have to believe me. But it's usually the guy himself who is insecure I don't know if insecure is the word.
You want to call him?
No. Like, I don't know if insecure is the word, but it's usually when you raise like unrealistic, unhuman standards about people, it is usually your own projection of you being, what's the word? Like, I want to say self-hating, but something similar to that, where you're not comfortable, you're not content with who you are, that you want to sort of project. This is the same thing with parents, right? Where a parent used to fail in math or something, and then he beats his kid when the kid has 94. You should get 100. You know, those like petty things. It's like the parent projects his disguise for his own self onto the child. And this happens also in relationships, where the partner is projecting their own discontent with who they are onto the other person. And usually they come in checklists. That's why, like, I wanted you to explain to me why you hate tattoos, by the way, because that's why I think, like, for me, I know for sure today, I would understand when if my parent couldn't consider partner with tattoo. The tattoo thing was so foreign, right? But today, where we've seen movies of heroes with tattoos are not for bad guys, are not for Chivanda anymore, where, like, the tattoos are being sanitized. If you write a book and tell people tattoo is a no-go, yeah, there I just really want to understand where you're coming from, because otherwise it seems like...
Imagine a woman with which actor has a lot of tattoos?
It's a Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne's a rapper. Yeah.
Now imagine a woman like that.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, but those are extreme cases. if you find Lil Wayne, those are extreme cases.
These red flags are just are just guidelines. It's not like everything that if you might get a woman, if they have more than 50% of these red flags, then why are you still pushing?
Okay, let me first find another red flag, because the problem is I don't remember things. I should have highlighted these things, by the way. I don't remember where these things
I say tattoos.
Yeah.
I've given you the right example. Imagine a woman looking like Lil Wayne, like you mentioned Lil Wayne, and you have to take.
Like that. So yeah, man. Here I found it. So one of the other red flags is like the biggest quality in a human being. The best quality in a human being is being a free spirit. But for you, it is a red flag. Yeah? Like, doesn't this sound to you like just simple judginess?
Do you know how they have taken free spirit? How people now have turned into free spirit? How they have turned the definition of free spirits?
Tell me, because I want to understand like your definition.
Yes,
because
free spirits, if you look at the current definition, how I don't know if you ever visit Tinder, the Tinder pages.
Yeah. I used to be on Tinder in my banana days.
Women some describe themselves as free spirits, and do you know what they mean by free spirits? I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, that's what I mean also.
Yes.
That's what I mean also.
I can. You have to be comfortable with me doing whatever I want. I can be in an open relationship. I'm a free spirit.
Yeah.
Would you be in an open relationship?
So that's also the other thing. Okay. Yeah. I think that's where people get it wrong, right?
Yes.
A free spirit. Yeah. Even me, I consider myself a free spirit. I can do whatever I want. I just don't want to be in an open relationship. Right? The people who are free spirits, it doesn't mean they don't have things they don't want. That is like the misconception people have. It's not, they're not going to go with everything that is there. Right? Here you cite musicians. Hey, you man. You put actors. Like, you might put your brother the Rasta. So now your brother shouldn't be there.
Yes, I know it's not true. But if you look at most relationships, when you look at them, musicians and actors, I don't think they're the best models for. Even they're not the best models for.
Really. So okay, this is I think
yes, there are isolated cases. There are a few isolated cases, but most of them. I don't think you.
No, but I think this is actually a big fallacy of what? Of overrepresentation. So when you see Johnny Depp getting divorced and we spend a whole
3 months.
Yeah, a whole 3 months immersed in Johnny Depp's drama, right? You can make the assumption that most actors are in relationships like Johnny Depp's, which is entirely false. In Hollywood alone, there are so many actors in like stable relationships, so actually have even different jobs, who are living normal lives than they are Johnny Depps in Hollywood alone. Now, if you move away from Hollywood, where you go to the real life, you know, there are so many Nigerian actors you just passed by, you wouldn't even notice, who are living normal lives. There are so many Nigerian famous actors who are married. There are so many Indian actors who are married. There are so many Chinese actors who are married. When you bundle actors and musicians, there are so many. And musicians, I don't even understand that. Musicians.
Actresses and musicians.
Yeah, there are so many musicians who are living the best life.
Cases, they are very isolated.
The dramatic cases are the isolated ones. It's just that they get so much attention. So you're making the fallacy that because they're overrepresented, that they're the majority. But in actual sense, actors, because acting is a normal job, and it's a very hard job by the way to do if you're doing it right? Yeah. It's a job that needs a lot of discipline.
And you've mentioned something, if you're doing it right.
Yeah, no, by this, I'm assuming Johnny Depp is acting right.
Yes,
that
let me tell you, fame hits hard when a woman is famous, when they are real famous, when they have power. If you're going to get with a woman like that, there's something we call sexual polarity. If the sexual polarity is not well balanced, if you're not the type of man she thinks this is the best I can have, you will struggle.
Why are you intimidated by powerful women? Yeah. Because this is the way the conversation is
no.
going. Are you intimidated by powerful women?
Not
are you worried of a world where
no,
you don't need to just be a man to be...
It's not intimidating. Yeah. But if the polarity, because all this is about managing polarity.
Okay, first explain to me what you mean by polarity in this case.
Sexual polarity is what if a man, how does a woman look at you? Are you that man that she's some men usually say, I'm lucky to have this kind of, but is she lucky to have you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think that doesn't matter man, whether the woman is a free spirit or not. If the woman is settling, even you, if you're settling for a woman you have because maybe you're getting too old or because you got her pregnant by mistake and now you have to,
what I'm looking,
you won't be content with the relationship.
Book, yeah. Like I mentioned, I'm focusing on men, and you would want to get a woman who's looking at you as the best. I'm
saying, but that woman can still be a musician. That woman can still be an actor.
That's why I mentioned
that woman can be a free spirit.
Polarity has to have had a very good balance. She had to have looked at you as, I'm getting this man and he's the best. There are families I know where the woman earns more money, she has more fame, but the respect she gives to her man, it's out of this world. And if other women look at it, why do you do that? There is something that man has, charisma, that this woman looks at and says, this man is the best I can have. You know, these actors get exposed so much that if you're not the best she can do, trust me, you will struggle.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go again. This is now, we crossed over to the section of women. Articles of war. So, Mr. Dev, when you have a disagreement with your woman, how do you suggest we resolve these disagreements if we can't argue? Should I just slap her and she gets in line or what?
No, you don't have to say.
Okay, because I thought that is, if I can't argue, because you say never argue with a woman. If I don't have to argue, how do we find that right compromise if we can't argue?
There's someone I was talking to recently, and they asked me the same thing. Have you ever you have a daughter?
I have a son.
You have a son. Yeah. There are things that you can't talk to about him. Things you won't have arguments. Yes, there are certain. There are extremes you can't go to. There are arguments you can have, but it would be much safer if you stated your point. This is what I want. This is what I want to see running. Then continue. A man looks so ugly when they're arguing.
Okay, so this is a beauty thing. It's about worrying about how you look.
Yes. You have to
okay, yeah, but in a real world where you disagree, because this happens. You
have to disagree, but you shouldn't go to the extreme with a woman.
So you just concede in this case. I think this is like the statement of a weak man. If say my son, right? One thing I don't want. For example, let me first even remember. Okay, say for example, I would want my son to only wear blue. Yeah, very hypothetical, right? And then one day I come when he's wearing pink. Yeah, pink is because you're anti-feminine. So yeah, I come when he has put on pink, right? And then I be like, no, put blue on. Then she's like, no, he looks pretty in what? Pink. I'm like, no, put blue on. Then she's like, no, you look shy, just go away and go and sleep. Say something more important. This is yeah, but in the same situation where we disagree, but this is actually important. How do you suggest we go about it if we can't argue?
You can argue, but it shouldn't go to the extreme. Where I'm coming from is that the arguments that are reasonable, where you're really deciding that this is what we want to do, and this is where we are getting. And as a man, you're expected to be the leader in the home. It's like when you have bosses. We disagree by the end of the day. Why I say you don't have to argue so much, and you have to make a decision. And if she has the best decision, there is no reason why you shouldn't take it. But at the end of the day, that decision, there's some time back I was in church and someone said that they were saying that as a man, when things are going well, you're the best man. Trust me. And when things hit the ceiling,
we can curse on this podcast.
They will say that man didn't do his job. You look at football clubs.
I agree. Yeah.
When things are going worse, do they fire the players?
No. I see your point. Okay, I see your point.
It's the leader in the home who is.
So, okay, my question though is, in a place where you just have different perspectives, right? Where you have different perspectives, where it's hard to judge who's right or who's wrong, but you want something, your partner wants something, which is like we are human, right?
Yes,
it's a very common situation. How do you get about coming to a compromise without arguing? That is like what I want to understand.
Being rational comes in.
Yeah, so say rationally. Rationally. We all have different perspectives, right? We all have different perspectives. And for us, for example, I don't want to put my personal business here, but we've had some issues with what? Since our nanny left, we had some issues replacing the nanny, right? And the conversation was, for me, I work from home. So the conversation was, do I stay and take care of the baby because I'm right at home? Or does what? Does my wife, does the mother of the baby, ask for days off, right? And so she was clear with me. She's like, you know what? I actually have these deadlines that have been set in motion, that it's okay for me to stay, but for this week, it is not a go for me. I cannot stay because there are very clear deadlines I can't miss, right? And for me, I'm like, if your job can't allow you to take care of your baby, then maybe you should quit, right? Yeah. And she's like, I don't think you understand obviously, like in a situation like that, we are both rational. I think I'm very rational also, right? Her point is valid, but my point is also valid. Yes. How do we get to what? Because for us, and we burnt the whole house down. We burnt everything down. We took the baby to the grandparents. And that was our resolution. But normal people, how do they? Okay. Anyway, we found a compromise. Yeah, but for us, it was from arguing. But what I want to understand from your perspective is, if there is no arguing, how do we get a compromise?
What I always advise as a man, by the time you came to the conclusion to take the child to...
No, we didn't do that. We ended up finding a way around. But I just don't want to get into details of that. Yes. But I'm saying it came to... We had to argue back and forth, yes.
But then at the end of the day, you, as a man, you had to accept that this is what is good for the family. So instead of arguing, if she's bringing in a point, you look at her point as well.
Yeah, that's arguing. I'm saying arguing doesn't mean you
just look at her point, look at your point.
Yeah.
Which weighs more?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did.
Yeah, there is no reason to...
No, that's what we did, but we disagreed on which weighs more. That's what I'm saying, is we disagreed. She thought hers weighs more, I thought mine weighs more. So we disagreed on what weighs more, and what is the way forward from there. That is what I want to understand.
So...
We argue. You have to revise this point. This one I've won it. Yeah, I think this one shall...
my arguments that I'm looking at here
Eddie,
are these arguments where you sit, You sit 1 hour,
like quarreling,
2 hours.
basically.
Yes, like quarreling.
Okay, yeah,
yes, the
okay.
arguments,
I see,
yeah.
I see, I see. Okay, so you used the wrong word. You used arguing. Arguing is
But arguing
is
is
healthy. I think you meant quarreling.
if it goes to the extreme arguing.
But arguing is stating an argument, and setting an argument is this is what setting your reasons for course of action. Then the other person says their reasons for course of action. Then you say, I don't think this makes sense to me, and they say, I don't think this makes sense to me. Yeah, that is arguing, right? But quarreling is when you somersault and say, no, by the way, you remember last time, you bring in irrelevant stuff.
No, you don't have to bring
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So if that's what you meant, okay, Eddie, we shall just revise the details. I don't know how to kick the point
we will
out.
not revise it. Because at the end of why I said to avoid argument, if you're going to argue, you always also have to know that the final start, if you're the leader in the home, because these days there are men who are in the homes who are not even leaders. Let's make the woman happy. By the end of the day, you have to make your decisions after the argument in a rational, whether you also like it or you don't like it, but it's the best solution for the home.
I see. Okay. Why do I need a nice pair of sunglasses? Why do I need a nice pair of sunglasses?
Looks.
So yeah, I mean, if you're advising me that life, this is have to be an alpha man.
Life is about money, game, and looks. You know why women spend a lot of time doing makeup?
Yeah, because they want to look good.
Because they want. You don't. You would have woken up today and say, "Let me just put on this t-shirt and go." At the end of the day, you also have. There's a guy we were going for a consultation. There's someone who was starting up something, and I told this guy, you know what? When you're leaving your home, there's a certain way you have to live. Yes, even if you're going to work and you have a uniform to put on, but you leave your home like you're leaving. So he said, okay. So we just get an appointment somewhere. And this guy told him, no, I have to go with you. Now you look at her. He said, no, they will manage. We get there, it's a weekend and everyone is dressed well. And I told him, he said, from that day, he said, my looks really matter. It's not like you have to go to the election, but at least you have to look.
Yeah. So the one question, and maybe before I ask that question, I wanted to actually first emphasize, this is an important book. This like the reality is, you're putting some effort coming up with something like this, but I think it's something that's needed. There is also a little bit of disconnect now because most people consume advice from the internet rather than like from their direct guardians or relatives. So this is definitely a good book for people to read. Overall, obviously there are things that I disagree with, like the tattoo thing. That one I can't reconcile with it. But the tattoo and the musician, right? But overall, I feel like this is an important conversation to have. How do you mold the right person or the right man? Okay, in this case, right? How do you mold the right man who is actually valuable to society? Yeah, I think that is like. Efforts like this, the overall net is value. If someone read this, maybe if like me, people will just have one or two things they don't agree with, but overall, it's something it's a very valuable. It's like most of the things, it's a good thing to learn. Like it's a good thing to notice and be like, okay, this is actually a cool thing to have. Some things that you put here that I think, like if you're perusing through, you could think, this is not important, but I thought when I read them, I was like, yeah, this is actually a good thing. Like when you say, you have a wallet, I brought out the sunglasses thing. I don't actually own a pair of sunglasses, but like I would understand why, like if a kid at say Form 6 had this book and they read it, it would be a nice thing for them to be like, let me step up and buy myself a wallet, right? Yeah, things like that. There's like actual value in the book that I see and I appreciate. And I wanted us to move now the conversation slightly away from that to Deo. I see the lies. Is the lies that
no, it's okay. We can go.
We can. I don't know if we can move it.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay.
So yeah, I wanted us to move the conversation slightly to Deo. Yeah. So why should we listen to you? Who's the person behind this book? That is like the story I want us to go to. Who is Deo? Who is this man writing this book? And yeah, where is he getting this inspiration from?
I got the inspiration, like I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation. There are life situations you go through, and as a man, you have to be rational. You have to say, okay, now how Usually, I have friends who are into events. They tell you they do what they call postmortems. Yes, we had this event, this happened, but what should we have done? So in life, there are certain things you'll go through, and then as I'm not to go through the same things again, you just sit back and say, okay, now where did I go wrong? How do I rebuild this? How do I get better with this? So the inspiration was there, and like I said, what pushed me is that there's not a lot of information to really guide men through. There is not like a deliberate move for helping prepare men, prepare boys. I'll look at boys mostly. Prepare boys for what is coming in society, for how to get the best out of them. There are those who are lucky; they have parents who are able to talk to them. You realize most of the children now, they go to boarding school in P1. They're not having all those talks together. That's the confusion we are getting into now. They come out of school, senior 6, they're at university, they don't know where to start from. All of a sudden, he has this freedom. Actually, I'm going to donate some of these books to the schools I went through to just tell them, okay, in society, you have to be ready for this.
Yeah.
Someone read the book and told me that, when I was at university, I had only 2 boxers. Then in one of my commercials, the girls tell you right from primary, they're told a girl has to have over 12 panties.
I see. Yeah,
they look like small things, but there is a certain preparation.
That's, I think, what I felt with the wallet thing. Yeah,
the wallet thing. The girls, you'll never find a girl without a bag. It's not a coincidence. They know what to put in a bag. They'll have their small makeup. They'll have pads. Things don't just happen to them. And by the time you see things just happen to girl, just know that girl has a problem. They didn't prepare her well. But a girl who has been talked to, she will know that I have to have this, I have to smell well, I have to... They'll put into that detail.
Yeah.
That's why they come out of school knowing that, first of all, I have to work. Yes, I'll get married, but anything can happen to a man, and I'll have to provide, like you mentioned. So if she's not prepared in that way, now we have a man here who is going to get with a girl who is prepared, and it will be hard work for her because she has to tell him, you know what, you have to do this, you have to do this, things that would have been automatic. So that was the inspiration for me, and I'm happy. I've gotten feedback from those who have bought the book, from the men who have bought the book, and they tell you, there are things I'm learning.
Yeah. I think that's the
things I'm doing.
Like
there's one guy who told me now, in his family, they're starting to look at him as, because he said we would have argument with my sisters, let's do this, but he was surprised what time he told them, this is what we are going to do, and let's head here. I have this kind of money, I have this amount, you guys can add this. I've already started on this project. And which person in this world wouldn't want to have that kind of person who leads, who pushes things? Let's go through. I'm happy with the feedback I'm getting.
Yeah, I see.
And
so what I see, and obviously, I think the first time we met was for fitness, where you...
I was doing this.
You stretched this man because the man was about to become lame. But the conversation, I mean, that's like you built a career around fitness and around coaching. And how does this kind of mentality, because most of the coaching, I find some of what you do is dedicated to like coaching people to just become fit. It's very narrow, but how do you broaden that kind of the coaching mentality to helping like people just grow up as good people? Is that part of what inspires?
Yes. I usually call, there's something new that is coming into the industry in the space. It's called body maintenance, an overall person, the body, the mind, and the soul. Recently, I wrote an article in the paper about mental health, and a psychiatrist, some friend of mine, he said, you know what, we have people on medication, and most of them don't even need medication. They just need somewhere to just go and relax and work out and do something. And he told me, I think we have to send people for this kind of thing. So the industry I'm in, the spa and fitness industry, gives an opening for that. We have men and women who confide in us conversations, stories, and sometimes you look like a counselor because they expect people don't have a lot of people to share information with.
I agree.
Someone will come to you, you're their trainer, they can confide in you, and you'll talk to them and they will listen. So this is so the industry, I mean,
I see.
Mostly even some of the examples I gave. There were collections of those instances that I've talked to people, to men, to women. They tell you, this is what I hope my son could do this. There even a few parents that have bought this book. My own clients have bought this book to just keep it for their boys. Their boys are young, but they're saying, I think this is good information, I keep for them because I don't have even time to talk to them. I have a single mother who bought this and said, I don't have the husband died. It's not like she moved out of the home. The husband died, and she says, if I can have more of this information for them, I think it would be a good start for them. Coming back to the industry I'm in, it's an industry where you're dealing with people directly, and you have to have the right mind, and you know what to tell them, because people come with problems. Of late, people are going through divorces and all those things, and they're coming, and the fitness industry is where people can say, okay, now here I can go and attend this class, I can go, I can come out. There are hormones, happiness hormones that after exercise that come. Okay, it's not like what you think about will go, but at least you'll have a certain
moment of relaxation as well.
And if you continue doing that, you will
become generally happy. I see. So one of the other things, by the way, this is usually when we have a conversation on this podcast with people who we think the things they do sort of are in line with part of our mission, which is again, our mission is to, we say, like our tagline is only humans tell stories, but part of what we believe, this podcast and the company itself, is that like conversation, right? And this could be what we are doing here. Big up, I come, you tell me. This is how we move the culture forward, right? When, for example, right now, when you go on the internet, most of the stuff you're going to find is white people talking. It's just always going to be white people talking. But if we start now, right, adding to this conversation, right, you bring Deo, we bring Eddie, and Eddie comes with his conspiracy theories. We'll bring him back. Like if we have like these conversations, right, and sort of people know this is the African person. Okay, maybe not African. There is a person called Deo somewhere in some coordinates in the world who has this perspective. We believe that we are broadening this the breadth of this conversation, right? So because most of it is very similar. If you read, say, Peterson's book, the book I was telling you about, if you read, I think a lot of work by Mark Manson, in the end, if you read a lot of that, it starts to sound the same. It's like everyone is reading the other guy's book and writing their book in their own words, right? And then you bring in a conversation that's more informed by like your African background or your like growing up in as a Mnyoro, like those small things, the differences between you and those people matter. So most of the times when you have like a chance to converse with people who we think sort of what they're doing with their lives is in line with what our mission is as well, we encourage them to find a way partnering with us. So we had Chef Jude Chinene once, and we were talking about how we can start a podcast for food, right? Because we don't have that yet. We don't do one of those yet. And I think this is the same actually thing that we could do with you, right? We can start with a book, Making of a Strong Independent. Maybe we could just change the podcast name to Person, right? Okay. Anyway, Making of a Strong Independent Man, right? A podcast where you just go. Because one thing by that I didn't mention, and I thought I wanted to start with this when I was preparing for this, was it's so easy to read. The book is so easy to read. Me, I don't usually read print, and especially print like on white pages like this. It's very hard for me to read. But this is the way it was designed itself is for Ugandans. It's so easy. But I think I've told Eddie before. This is so
Why I wrote this
the structure of the book itself,
Yes, there are a lot of information, but the information is mostly by the West.
Yeah.
But it's been written. The podcasts mostly by I know there are podcasts coming out in this part of the world that are being focused on our own
like our culture, local
our
culture. Yeah.
There are things we can't pick from there, but there are things that we can hold here.
Yeah.
So I had to write it in a way that it helps the person in this part of the world.
Yeah, no, I see, I agree. So I'm saying, what do you think about partnering with Yuvotam to create the independent man, making of a strong independent man podcast? Or even program where you come and just even pick the exact book. You just redo the book, but in podcast form. Because this actually gives you a chance to reach out to people who would otherwise not have a chance to read. People who are just not comfortable reading. I know people like that. Or people who are too busy. The problem with reading print also is you have to dedicate the time, right? Okay. Yeah. We get, this is like, exactly, yeah. This is a conversation. You can be driving here and it's playing on your, in your car. And you're actually listening to there. We can do that, or we can even just do an audio book. We can sit here and record an audio book. And since DX called himself a publisher here, we'll also call ourselves publishers. Oh no, okay. But anyway, yeah. But the point is what? Is we would like to get the message out there any way we can. And if there is room, obviously that's a conversation we'd entertain to see, how does Deo and ourselves, how do we come together to make this more accessible content and things like that?
I'm open for that. Though I've been trying, the best way we can, what they call reaction videos, where we are able to, there are a lot of things that happen around. So if we can go in that kind of format, what is scaring me right now is the laws that are coming up, sharing other people's videos. But other people's content, because what has happened, most people do reaction videos. That's where people can examples. Reaction videos give people examples of, you see, this happens, this is what you would have, this is what this person. So if you're open for that kind of thing, if you can look at if the laws that are coming up,
no, don't worry. No Uganda laws are flexible.
Yeah, we can go. Yeah, I would be open for
this kind.
Because most of these examples, like you mentioned, the articles of war, you'd see how they play out. How does it come out?
Yeah, I see.
When I talk about
when you're reacting to someone else's video.
Yes, there are videos where you will see a man and woman arguing and how it ends up ugly, and whereby a man could have avoided that by doing it. Is this that? Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I know you mentioned, I don't know if you're interested in going deep into your history. I know you mentioned that you wanted to be a journalist and for some reason the wind blew you. Yeah. What is the story here? What is the story from the beginning? What is the origin story? The school, where do you start? How was your life shaped out?
I went to, there's a nursery school called Antikavuma. Very good. Now it's, how private schools go. Then I went to a Catholic school called St. Chizito in Waise. Then I went to Kabalega Secondary School, that's in Masindi. Then finished up my secondary education at Kabalega Secondary School, at Brilliant, that Kawempe, that's A level. I remember that it was Andrew Mwenda, I think, when he was just out. Andrew Mwenda was my inspiration. His writing. Then later on, when I was in Masindi, when it was still Monitor FM or something, we had a small radio, so would listen to his. He had that program at 7. So I would sit down.
I see.
And really listen, because we'd get first-hand information from him. So I started reading newspapers when I was in P1. I would sit down and read sports articles for my dad at home, and he would just sit down, he'd bring the papers, I read for him. I started reading as early as P1. So I started having that inspiration. So along the way, I thought I would still push to be a journalist, because I'm good at writing. Even I've written some other articles there somewhere. Kept.
I see.
I want to make them into collections for the book that will come next. So along the way, I'm a sports guy. I get so interested. Then sports science comes in. I
Oh
go
yeah,
for
so
sports
you
science.
I think when you say journalism, it was
Yeah.
mostly going to be sports journalism.
Yes, sports.
I see.
journalism,
Okay,
yeah.
I see.
But though I still had, I would still get interested in other parts, but it was more
It was
sports
mostly going
journalism,
to be
yeah.
okay. So yeah, so then you
Then I
get
branched
interested in
off,
sports science
then
and
all
that.
of a sudden,
I see.
there are opportunities there are
In
these new
fitness.
opportunities in the fitness industry. I move into them. Then there's fitness and the spa. So now I'm more into body maintenance. Like
I see.
now I've moved also into the mind part. So
Oh, I see. So you're about to like take on psychology. Or you're starting a church, because I've had churches also.
no. Psychology. It's as a sales. I'm also into sales as well. Being able, as a psychologist, as a salesperson, I believe it's good to know psychology.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
If you're a salesperson, you need to be good at psychology as well.
I see. Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Deo, for making the time to do this podcast with us. Yeah, I've had a good conversation. I hope I wasn't so brutal. I generally like the book. I thought maybe it was important to address the so people don't look at the book and say, oh, this person is what? A woman hater. This is also very easy to judge people like that. So I thought that was important to address. But yeah, in general, I've liked this conversation, and I really hope that there's opportunities for us working together going forward. And yeah, thanks a lot for coming.
Okay, thank you for your time, and keep doing the good work you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep the conversations going.
Thank you. Yeah.